What's up, guys? Welcome back to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at Palantir Technologies, ticker symbol PLTR, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Thursday, February 8th. Well, Palantir stock here today on Wednesday up 7.91%. We had a massive opening drive here off the bell to push the stock above that $23 a share range that we've talked so much about historically here on Palantir. That level has been drawn forever. Now, if we take a quick zoom in here on the 1 minute chart, you can see this opening drive. I mean, we saw a few tests of that 20 EMA. I mean, listen, for me, it was too strong to see even any development. The move was just too aggressive in terms of an intraday scalp, of course, completely unrelated to the more mid and longer term outlook on Palantir. But as far as intraday scalping, using this as a tool, nothing here for me today. By the way, if you guys would like to get those scalp setup alerts every single trading day, go ahead and join our Roensch Capital Gold server. You can find access to that in the pinned comment, and I'll see you inside. But what we need to do here is take a look at the 5 minute. Okay, the 5 minute is going to give us the picture that we want in terms of volume on this move. All right, what are we looking for? We'll see this opening drive to push us above 23 bucks a share. See how it's the highest volume of the day all the way through until that drive kind of fades and we start to slow down slightly. It still pushes another 50 cents higher, 60 cents higher. But the volume starts to fade as the aggression of the bullish move fades. Okay? And then any time during the day when we saw sideways movement or even pullbacks, the volume couldn't hold a candle to what we saw earlier in the day. Now listen, I mean, from an unbiased perspective, the bulls are going to want to see that. Okay? If this was opposite today and we saw a big tank off on the opening bell, and the volume was massive on the tank off, and then any little bounces, the volume was very small comparatively speaking, I would be saying the same thing in favor of the bears. It's just today, I mean, the bulls won the battle on Palantir, and the volume is there to show that the biggest sample size possible in the market here today showed that they thought Palantir belonged higher. And you're always looking for that big sample size to confirm your personal bias when you're long or short a particular stock, whether that be through stock or options spreads. But what that does not mean is look only for things that confirm your bias, because I know it's fun to do so. We also have to look at things that may go against our bias, okay, and then consider those like adults here, right? So if we look at the 30-minute chart, let's look at these self-fulfilling prophecies. Let's start with that 50 period, because that's really the one that's immediately relevant. That 200 period is going to take its time getting upside. Currently, that's just below 1850. This 50 period we're currently sitting right around 2235. So as far as a downside move to make a retest of that 50 period, we're almost 5% away. So the most immediate thing that I'm looking at is going to be that $23 range, which I think we should look more so on the daily chart. But listen, on the 30-minute chart, the thing that I'm watching the closest when it comes to the 30-minute chart in particular is going to be that 50 period. Now again, it's a relatively substantial move away, but if we continue to see that thing move upside, it gets closer and closer, it becomes more and more relevant. If we end up seeing a test of that 50 period on the 30-minute chart, the 50 period, right, that white line, I'm going to be looking from a bullish perspective. Absolutely, you're going to want to see that hold as a support level, kind of get this like ascending level of bouncy support. Ideally, that's what you'd want to see. And then if you're a bear, obviously a downside break of that could open up a potential downside test of 2130 from your perspective. All right, let's move on now to the 4-hour, get a little bit more context here. Palantir has been on such a tear. Guys, this is one of the downsides to having such aggressive moves in your favor. And listen, just fundamentally, this is incredibly common. This is always going to be the case when you see a ridiculous move like this. The more you zoom out in terms of time frame, the more these self-fulfilling prophecy moving averages are going to take their time to help get some feet underneath the move. I saw we get a question here on the channel in the comment section. By the way, leave a comment. Let me know do you want me to cover Palantir more in the future every single day? Would you like me to cover some other stocks as well? Leave a suggestion, or if you have a question, let me know in the comment section. I'm reading them all. But we got a comment. Someone asked, what do you mean when you say get some feet up underneath the stock? Well, what I mean is, let's say I'm a bull, okay, and we are getting a huge upside move like we're currently getting on Palantir. We want as many potential areas of support underneath the new stock price as quickly as possible. Get those psychological levels up underneath. Get some feet up underneath the move. Rather than the move floating on quote unquote kind of thin air, which is what a lot of traders are going to maybe see this as, especially if they have a bearish bias. So what you want to do is you want to shoot the bearish bias as quickly as possible, or any justification to be bearish, at least based on the technicals. Of course, you can't really change if someone is bearish on the fundamentals of the company, because they are what they are. But the technicals, if you can make it so that it's very difficult to interpret a chart in a bearish manner, or at least argue that, or justify that to oneself, because there are so many things right up underneath the stock with not much of a gap, putting some psychological areas of potential support up underneath the brand new move. I mean, isn't that what you want as a bull, right? Sure, we have 23 bucks a share, but you know what's better than 23 bucks a share? 23 bucks a share and the 50 period on the 4-hour, the 30-minute, and the daily. Of course, it's going to be better. However, again, the longer you go out, the more time those moving averages are going to take to move. They're longer time frames, so these are going to take their time. Okay, so the 4-hour right now, honestly, it's not incredibly relevant, but I'm keeping an eye on that because, it's down right below 18 bucks a share, and I want to see that pop up as quickly as we possibly can. So I'm going to watch that here in the coming days. But let's take a look at the daily, because these levels are, I think, really what are most important. Now, what we should do is zoom out a ways, and we can see here that $23 area goes back all the way to 2021. All right, so we zoom in, and it's going to look a little ugly. We just have two of these candles popping much, much higher, okay? But what I'm looking for here, really, is one thing. If I'm a bull, I want 23 to hold. Okay, listen, if we see a back test of 60 cents or 75 cents and it comes down and it tests the high 22s or 23, just hold that region. That's on my mind if I'm a bull. If I'm a bear, similarly, I want to break down back below 23 and ideally head back down toward 21.30 as quickly as possible. Now, I mean, listen, it's not crazy to think, $25 is potentially on the agenda here, and that is a psychological level that we have to consider here now in the near future, potentially. Now, two more things here. Take a look at this. Volume massive on a massive upside move. If you're a bull, that is what you want to see. Bigger sample size confirming your bias. Implied volatility is falling. If you have owned options contracts, whether it be calls or puts, you have likely noticed a little bit of IV crush. Again, the lower this goes, the more opportunity for brand new options buyers to come in and potentially experience some IV pump, benefit from IV returning to equilibrium if it were to do so after it goes lower to begin with, okay? And you buy when IV is low, all right? Now, what's the options chain telling us today? What's their bias here? 1.7 million total contracts traded here today. What's the bias here? We have 1.19 million nearly calls, 529,000 puts. We're looking at, more than double the bullish overall bias in the overall call put ratio as we're seeing in the put side. Short-term speculators, relatively undecided actually. 0 to 20 delta, that's 273,000 calls compared to 267, almost 268,000 puts. But if we look at those deeper in the money contracts, those mid to longer term bets, we're seeing the 61 to 80 delta and 81 to 100 delta. We're seeing over 250,000 collectively calls. And in that same 61 to 100 range, we're seeing less than 15,000 puts. Okay, like 13,000 puts-ish. So huge bullish bias in the mid and longer term. Pretty big bullish bias in the overall call put ratio. and slight bullish bias, but actually relatively undecided in the very short term here. Listen, if you got value out of this video, please subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate it, and it helps out tremendously in continuing to produce these videos daily. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.